Hi, it's Dave Johal for Punchout Boxing. Pleased to be joined by my colleague in the South, Mr. International, Rahul Hokam, introducing our 2023 review of the year. Rahul, how are you?
Fantastic. Still recovering from the jet lag, but fortunately, the best time to be working is between Christmas and New Year because there's nobody here. So gives me the time to talk to you about boxing.
Absolutely, and what a year it's been as well. I mean, who would have thought, first of all, that people like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren would be shaking hands? I never saw that coming. You never saw that coming as well. We've had some fantastic events. We're here to break down the year for you, and we've got some categories as well. So we're going to be talking about fight of the year, event of the year, upset of the year, the knockout of the year, prospect of the year, fighter of the year, and also promoter of the year as well. Now, again, we don't need to be on the same wavelength, but we'll kick things off then, Raw, with fight of the year. What have you got, and the reasons for it?
Fight of the year. Obviously, I've been privileged to be in some great fights this year, small hall and the big glamorous event. I always go for what had as much of a personal impact on me, not necessarily the quality. There was obviously fights like the Beterbiev Yard fight, one of the highest level fights I've been to. There was obviously the Joyce and Zhang fights right at the top level of the heavyweight division. But I do like those small hall events, and there was several at York Hall. And because we're so close to the action, you really get absorbed into it. So my fight of the year was Sam Gilly against Louis Green for the Commonwealth super welterweight title. Sam Gilly, of course, always telling this, he's the man that launched my reporting career. He was the first fighter I ever interviewed at Hoddesdon when he was there sparring Hamza Shiraz. It's been 2 years now, hasn't it, since you brought me on
It
board?
has, yeah. Yep.
And Louis Green, again, he was one of the first guys I started following when I went down to Kent Gloves, which was one of the first gyms I made contact with. So two guys that I like and admire a lot, and they both put on a hell of a fight, as they often both do. Both of them are real great value, and what a fight it was. Back and forth action for the whole 12 rounds. Well worthy of that Commonwealth title, which puts Sam now into the periphery of the world scene. So yeah, that's my choice for fight of the year. Sam Gilly against Louis Green.
What a fight that was.
Yeah.
What an event. What a fight. The Boxer had that as one of their fights of the year as well. Back and forth action. And also when it's encompassed at the York Hall, you can hear every blow, you can hear the fans, and you feel like you're part of the action no matter where you're sitting. But no, I think that was a fantastic fight, Rob. For me, I've been toying with this. I've been thinking about wrestling with this idea as to what is fight of the year. So I've got a few in my head. I was thinking about Joe Cordina versus Vasquez. What an event that was over in Monte Carlo. What a fight, even though I wasn't there. But the back and forth action, the close result at the end was great. But I'm going to go for Beterbiev versus Yard. I mean, that fight had absolutely everything. It had drama. It had the towel coming in at the end. Yard gave a good performance of himself. Beterbiev showed complacency in parts, if I'm being totally honest. However, he pulled through in the end as well, and he did what he was expected to do. But Yard had the heart of a lion. It had moments where you were at the edge of your seat while you were there as well. So for that one, but what a fight! But for me, it has to be that fight. It'll be interesting now as well to see where Beterbiev goes and how he does against Callum Smith in 2024, because that could have all ended for Beterbiev if Yard applied the pressure and finished him, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. But some are saying now that Beterbiev loses to Callum Smith based on the performance of what happened with Yard. I mean, how much did that take out of him? But it was a fantastic night and a fantastic fight.
Yeah, absolutely. The atmosphere there was electric. Yeah, I mean, good choice. One of the highest level fights we've seen in this country.
What do you? I mean, I'm just going to say it straight away. Event of the year. Um, I was virtually doing the uploading the interviews from home. I was seeing, your footage from what you were bringing. You were there on the nights for fight night, the press conferences. For me, event of the year has to be without a doubt, Day of Reckoning. I think that whole event from top to bottom, the way it was handled, the presentation, the production value, the zombie video as well. The horror video. Hearn and Warren working together. Nothing beats Day of Reckoning for me for event of the year. From a small hall level, though, I do have to give props to TM14, and I'll have to say Bassi versus Khan was a massive event as well. One that I truly will remember because of the antics afterwards as well, but also just the whole hype surrounding it. I mean, that moment, that fight did have bite your nail moments as well, But Day of Reckoning for me, from a massive hall event, has to be the event of the year. What about yourself, Ryan?
Well, there's no doubt in many ways it was the biggest and most spectacular event, without a doubt. I was privileged to be there. Been to quite a few big events this year. Again, like I said, privileged to be part of it. But again, I'm going by the personal impact. And for me, event of the year was the Usyk Dubois event. I think there was just something, the vibe was just much more different, it being in summer in Poland. Wrocław's a great sort of historic type of town. There was just that summer holiday sort of celebratory feel about the whole fight week there. Obviously it was a homecoming of sorts for Usyk because Wrocław has a large Ukrainian expat population. And then, of course, come fight night itself, the atmosphere in the stadium was absolutely terrific. So for me, it was personally the Usyk Dubois event in Wrocław, Poland. Of course, Day of Reckoning was, like I said, the bigger, more spectacular event in terms of the promotion, the production value, all of that. But of course, it's still early days for these sort of big boxing events in Saudi Arabia. So there isn't yet the natural support base. So you don't have the same atmosphere, the same vibe there. I'm sure that will come over time. But for now, I guess, it's still about putting the country in the shop window and it's advertising what they can do. So still early days. Maybe future events will have much more of a buzz and vibe around the event itself. But no, that's my personal choice. Usyk Dubois. It was a great long weekend in a country I'd never been to, and was very pleasantly surprised with it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, from what we saw as well, I mean, both of us met should we say, one of our boxing idols in the summer as well, didn't we? We both met Prince Nazim Hamid, and we were both like fanboys, weren't we? Very, very briefly as well. That's a personal highlight of mine as well. Upset of the year. So I've actually got two. So first off, one of the, and this isn't recency bias, but I've got to say Kabayel versus Makhmudov. That was a massive, massive, massive upset. Bigger so because it was at heavyweight, and we all know the gravitas that heavyweight boxers carry. Because in my opinion, it's the biggest prize in sports. So for Kabayel to put it on Makhmudov and absolutely take out this towering beast, the bookies had him as a huge underdog. He said as well, I've done this now, and does he deserve shots at your Joshua's and so on and so forth? Yeah, I mean, that was a massive upset. However, an upset for me is also looking at boxing as a whole, and the IBF stripping Jai Opetaia of the world IBF title, unjustifiably, in my opinion, is an upset. You know, Jai Opetaia has worked really hard to get into that position. No doubt we'll see him again challenge for world titles, and who knows, he may even go up to heavyweight, and he may even cause problems there. But to being stripped of your world title after working so hard for it, Joe Cordina had this done to him the previous year as well. For me, that was an upset. What about yourself, Rob?
Mine's a bit more conventional. For me, I think it was Lee Wood winning his rematch against Maurizio Lara. Yeah, I mean, it's not an upset in the sense that it's not someone who was considered a way lower level, but it's the fact that he got knocked out in that first fight. It's very rare for a fighter to win a rematch against someone who knocked them out when they take it immediately, especially if you look at the ages. Lara's 25, he's still in his physical prime, and Wood's 34, so to have got stopped that way, you'd think, well, how much can he improve and how much has he got left for the rematch? But yeah, he did what he's rarely done, and rightfully so. I think that, for me, is the upset of the year. Yeah, terrific performance by him. And I'll tell you what, Ben Davison deserves real plaudits, because I think the only reason Lee Wood's still able to perform is because he threw the towel in when he did. Because you don't want to take another blow from Lara when you're still dazed, even if you want to. Because I think if he had been allowed to fight on, Lara would have probably concussed him really bad, and that probably would have been the end of his career. So yeah, that's the one for me. Lee Wood got his title back.
I think
carries on.
I think you're absolutely right there. I mean, when I was speaking to Eddie Hearn, we're forgetting as well that Lee Wood fought Lara twice in a year, twice, which is massive. I mean, Eddie Hearn also said to me, look, he forgot that he's 25 years old, you know, and he's carrying so much power. So it'll be interesting to see where Mauricio Lara goes on from this. But Lee Wood, we can also make an argument potentially he could be, when we get to the category of fighter of the year as well, because I was but I was thinking about Lee Wood. Surely there's an argument for him for fighter of the year as well for what he's done.
Yeah, certainly.
Going on to knockout of the year, I've looked at this from two levels. So from a small hall perspective, because I was there commentating on this card, and also from a larger perspective as well, from bigger shows. And I have to say that the KO of the year from a big show for me has to be Zhilei Zhang's knockout of Joe Joyce in their second fight. I mean, that was a monstrous few punches that put the juggernaut down. The first fight, again, ended with Zhang stopping Joyce, but the knockout was absolutely devastating. To see the juggernaut not get up as well and stumble, it wasn't shocking, but also at the same time, see someone who's so formidable in terms of just taking punch after punch after punch and just having a great engine being stopped in his tracks was something that I could say was the knockout of the year. From a small hall perspective, again, looking at this, I've got to say I was there again. You know, I was commentating. Bassi's stoppage of Winter was, from a small hall perspective, was big. No one expected that as well. Props to Alfie Winter. You know, he will be back, but what a knockout as well by Bassi. What about yourself, Rob?
Yeah, again, staying my same thing about the personal impact. You're right. I was there ringside for Zhang against Joyce, and you're right. There is something quite profound seeing these gigantic men topple. So Zhang v Joyce would have been one of my prime candidates. However, there's one thing that prevents it winning it for me, the same thing that happened last year with Cordina's knockout over Kagawa. At the moment of impact, the referee was stood between me and the field of vision, so I didn't actually see the punch land. So for me, that's why it's edged out by another knockout, which happened at York Hall, and that was Ellis Zorro's knockout win over Hosea Burt,
Yep.
because it happened right above where I was sitting. Couldn't get any closer to it. So, I saw in full 4K the punch land. And I mean, you hear the sound of the leather squelching against Hosea's face, contorting his face. And then you see him collapse. And I think I got my hat splattered with his blood and sweat. Some went in my mouth as well, I think. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
just the sheer intimacy of that knockout, that wins it for me. Yeah, small hall. Of course, Ellis Zorro, as you mentioned, he was unfortunately on the other end of a knockout just this past weekend against Jaya Pattaya. That was quite a knockout as well. But yeah, I wasn't as
Devastating, wasn't it?
it was. But yeah, Ellis for me, that one over Hosea was the most memorable one.
No, that was a good knockout. Honourable mentions from, in my opinion, as well, for Tim Tszew's knockout of Campos. I think that was a superb knockout. And also Anthony Joshua knocking out Robert Helenius as well. Fantastic knockout. People were saying, look, he's gun shy and so on and so forth, but still delivered a fantastic knockout, which ended Robert Helenius's night, who did get caught cheating for drugs as well. So
Yeah,
makes the victory a bit more sweeter, doesn't it? Makes it more sweeter. Prospect of the year, I've got two. The first one from a big perspective is Moses Itamu. I think he's expected to do great things in the heavyweight division. He's on track in his own mind as well to beat Mike Tyson's record of becoming the youngest heavyweight champion of the world. He's young. I forget how young he is, to be fair, and he carries power. Every sort of boxing trainer that we speak to all say, watch out for this guy. This guy is going to be an absolute monster when he's matured. From a small ball perspective at the moment, one to keep your eyes out on is a chap called Gully Power, who is who's had his last fight on Boxer. He boxes really well. He's from the city of Wolverhampton. Remember the name. I think he's going to go on to do some big things. He's got a great amateur record as well, good head on his shoulders. So from a small hall perspective, watch out for Gully Power. Hopefully he transitions well and carries on winning in the pro ranks, and who knows, he might have a big fight. Ra, what have you got?
Yeah, Moses Atomo, without doubt for me. 18, he might be 19 now. I've never come across an 18-year-old so mature. So unlike Mike Tyson, whose target, of course, he's most famously got in his crosshairs, as he aims to be the youngest heavyweight champ in history. So I think he's got till around March 2025. He's just actually so mature and so fully focused. But make no mistake, his ability in the ring is phenomenal. Having seen him up close a few times, the hand speed's phenomenal. The foot speed. He's got all of his punch selection. I mean, of course, there's still a lot of tests he's got to go through. The stamina, the heart and the chin test, most notably. But I think, as you said, what is most impressive, it's not just us, the fans and his promoters who are bigging him up. It's top level guys who've sparred with him. And they've said, like, yeah, even as a teenager, he's come here and sparred with me and given me the work. So, yeah, for me, he's the prospect of the year. And as I said, again, when they're heavyweights, they just have that much more of an impact, don't they?
People take note, don't they? I mean, it's the I wouldn't say the best division, but it's the division that people, casuals, take most notice of.
Yeah, indeed.
Big guys throwing punches. Fighter of the year, for me, after being crowned undisputed in 2 weight divisions, has to be Inouye. I know there's an argument for Terence Crawford, but in my opinion, it has to be Inouye purely because he's done it in just over 371 days. He's fought more times this year. He's beaten Bolton this year as well, Tapalis as well. And where is this guy ceiling? You know, it's great to have a fighter not from America take these titles, if that makes any sense, someone from a different part of the world. But absolutely fantastic year for Inouye. So for me, it has to be Inouye. Ra, who have you got?
As I'm sure you know, us fans, we're always complaining that, oh, there's too many champions. You know, we don't know who's the best. Inouye's cut for all of that in 2 divisions in the space of a year. So yes, I still have Terence as pound for pound #1, but just in terms of their achievements for this year, becoming double undisputed in a single year, something that is nigh on impossible in for most of the game. So yeah, Inouye, without a doubt, for me, fighter of the year. So yeah.
And finally, we can't get away without just speaking about the promoter of 2023 as well. So for me personally, I think it has to be none other than Mr. Eddie Hearn himself, Mr. Matchroom. The amount of shows he's put on, some very memorable nights. We forget as well, you know, some fights fly under the radar, such as Devin Haney versus Regis Progress as well. That was very, very, very recently, but then Day of Reckoning overshadowed that. The return, and you know, he's got Anthony Joshua, with Anthony Joshua obviously fighting 3 times outside of boxing. You know, the 5K runs, promoting men's health, and also mental well-being as well, and also being what can now once be described as a fitness role model as well. So I'm going to go for Eddie Hearn for Matchroom Boxing as promoter of the year. Ra, who have you got?
Yeah, good shout. I mean, no doubt, Matchroom have gone on to great things. They're now as they point out, the only global promoter, and I think they promoted more than anyone. 27 events in 2023. That's some going. But again, just from a personal point of view, I'd have to go with Frank Warren in Queensbury simply because I've been to so many of their events, including some of the big events abroad, such as I mentioned, Poland and trip to Saudi Arabia. And yeah, just some of those really big historic events that he's been involved with. And having pushed so many of his fighters and maneuvered them into such good positions, poised for, you know, world title shots. At one point, he had the whole heavyweight division cornered. A certain Alexander Usyk threw a spanner into those works, but you know, he's kept a good relation with that team, and he's still involved to some degree. But yeah, for me, for that reason, it's got to be Frank Warren for this year. But yeah, that was 2023. Hell of a year for boxing. No complaints, I think, from me. And well, we go again in a few weeks, don't we?
We do, yeah. I mean, we've got so much stuff coming up. Next week, you're going to be at the Lakeside Centre for Johnny Clark's top tier promotions. And just on a side note as well, we don't give the small hall guys enough credit, but Johnny Clark and John Trethewey, obviously TM14 promotions, we're close with them. Top tier, we're close with them as well. Great year for them guys as well. So fantastic year for those 2 promoters, as for Nielsen as well. So fantastic, wasn't it? Fantastic year for them. But yeah, we go again next week. You're at the media workout and also the media day for Johnny Clark's top tier. I'll be over in Liverpool on the 20th of Jan for Boxer, for Michaela Meyer versus Jonas. On to February, we've got loads going on as well. So we're all systems going. I think you're packing your bags again, aren't you, for Usyk versus Fury?
Yes, indeed. Got my flights and accommodation already sorted. So yeah, another big event. But like I said before that, the small hall show's still to come. I'm hopefully still trying to arrange something with certain Mo Pryor, a man who's dedicated his life to small hall boxing. Probably launched 100 careers that without us even realizing it. So still trying to get that arranged. Of course, Mo's such a busy man. Getting hold of him is difficult, but look out for that. And yeah, so just want to say thanks to all our viewers and supporters for supporting us this year. And I hope you all had a good Christmas, and we wish you all a great new year. And we'll all be trying to bring you as much more boxing content as we can.
Yep, and then just stay tuned after this as well, because Carl should be dropping in his breakdown of 2023 as well. But no, I just echo Ron on what he said there, which is thank you for all the support, and we look forward to bringing in a great 2024 with loads of content for you as well.